Please remember, the views and opinions expressed by this show or any other show on DV Radio and its guests are strictly those of said individuals and do not reflect those of the DV Radio staff nor the staff of dysfunctional veterans.
All right, so everybody, you probably heard our first episode of Roundtable Discussions featuring the Service Dog Show, where we talked about service dog access issues and stuff of that nature, and we did ask a few questions. But this is the after show, and we wanted to go in a little more depth with a few things pertaining to each individual. Right here, we still have DevilDog, Spaniard, Joaquin Wata, as well as Nick. And, of course, I am Boner Wood. You are listening to this via YouTube, not necessarily live. But anyway, DevilDog, you said in the main show that you're taking dogs to the police station and working with law enforcement and quote-unquote training them. Could you give us a little more explanation as to what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how that's working out between not just you, but the guys and females there?
Well, I think it's, first of all, it's very important that I need to do this because I can't tell you how many times I've been called to businesses where it's a situation where they're refusing to let someone in because of their service dog. And it's always the same thing. Either the officer sides with the business owners or sometimes sides with the actual handler with his dog without even having any knowledge of the ADA. So what I would like to do is educate these cops by taking my service dog to the various roll calls, the day tour, the 4 to 12 tour, and the midnight tours, just to educate them on what it is to have a service dog and the laws that apply in other words for these businesses having to grant permission for them to take these dogs inside their establishment. And not only that, to look out for the people that just have to want to take their pets in the stores. If they see the pet is aggressive, if they see they're not behaving properly, then you can use your common sense judgment. But I believe the officers need to know what it is to have a service dog. And by having my service dog there, a fellow police officer, I think they'll make better decisions when they get that call with these business owners trying to kick these people out with their service dog. So it's important for me to do this, and I'll be happy to do it.
Right. Now, have you had any blowback or anything of that nature from maybe a group of officers who's just like, hey, screw you, that's not the law, or it doesn't matter, the establishment wins over whatever, ADA laws is out there? Has anything like that ever happened and they just don't want to budge?
No, it's been positive. Absolute positive feedback. They want to know more, and they wish this would have happened sooner. So I've been getting great reviews, positive feedback, and I'm hoping to do it throughout the department.
Awesome. That's great. I mean, like you said, I think, not just law enforcement, but communities as a whole should be aware of things like that. There should be some type of, not really outreach program, but some sort of training or education or something of that nature, whether it's in schools, in your business places or something like that. I know
think,
that
if I can, Bo, I want to say, DevilDog, that's pretty awesome that you're doing that. You're taking your dog out to the squad houses and teaching police officers about service dogs. A lot of times police get involved when there's an access issue, either because the handler is standing up for their rights and refuses to back down, and rightly so. I think it's well within their rights because it is federal law, or because the owner refuses to listen and calls the police to remove the handler. And one of the biggest complaints I see when the police are involved is the police officer doesn't understand the ADA and says that's a civil matter. I can't do anything about it. Or, like you said, the police officer will side with business. It's his business and you're trespassing at this point kind of thing. So thank you from me for taking the initiative to educate the NYPD about service dogs and the ADA. I think that's absolutely amazing. That's fantastic, and I hope that it starts a trend and we see more education with our law enforcement officers in regards to this issue. You know, it is a civil right for disabled people to use a service dog, just the same as it is a civil right for a person to enter a business and carry out their transactions, no matter what the color of their skin is. The ADA is that same type of law. It is a civil rights law. And in this day and age, you would not prohibit somebody from shopping in your store because of the color of their skin. But store owners think it's still okay to prohibit them to enter and conduct business because of their disability. And that's really what it comes down to. And, we've got to change that. We've got to change that atmosphere. So thank you. Thank you for educating the police officers. I think that's probably one of the coolest things I've heard, happening in the service dog community in quite a while. I really appreciate that you're taking the initiative to do that.
That's my pleasure, and it's a privilege to do so.
Most definitely. Now, in case you guys missed it in the main show, DevilDog is a Marine and New York City detective, and Spaniard, he is also a Marine and veteran advocate. And we got Joaquin Watai, who was a Navy veteran, or is a Navy veteran, and wrote the Service Dog book, which he will tell you about a little bit later on. And Nick is a disabled Army vet and currently trains service dogs with veterans and mentors at the Veterans Court in his hometown of Pennsylvania. Now, before I go on to any more individual questions, this question is for each and every one of you. We'll start with Spaniard. But how did you get your service dog? This gets asked like every day. I know that Joaquin has to deal with it on his Facebook page, and we've had it, during our shows on Barracks Talk and stuff like that. So if you could tell us, how did you get your service dog?
Yeah, it was quite a journey, and one of the things that I always like to gloat about is about coincidences. It was a path that I was on. It was just I was at the right place at the right time. I had hit well below rock bottom. I wasn't the same person. I mean, I wasn't the person who I was, and of course, I went to the VA. They did the best they could to patch me up and set me on my way, and I ran across an organization that was trying to promote their business, and someone referred me to them, and I was kind of skeptical. I'm more of a, I don't like to make waves. I don't want to cause anybody any hard work or anything. So it was just one of those things where I was like, to give it a shot, I'll try it. And it was magical. The place that I went to, it was a rescue. It was actually a dog rescue place, and I met with her first. And she said, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to have to find and have your dog select you. And I was like, what? Select me? What are you talking about? She's like, trust me. So there was a cage, a little pen full of German Shepherd lab mixes. There was like maybe 7 or 8 of them. And she said, Tony, just have a seat right there and just relax. So I sat down, and she opened up the door, and all these puppies started running towards me, and they're all licking me, and then all of them left except one. And that one was Katana. And, I'm getting kind of misty-eyed thinking about it, but she nuzzled in my chest, and she knew I had been through hell. I mean, she just, without having to explain it to her, like I had explained it hundreds of times before to doctors, to counselors, to social workers, she just knew, and it was just an instant bond. And I brought her home, and I was worried that my wife was going to say something, and, I introduced her to my wife, my kids, and the rest was history. She's now part of the family, and we are our own little pack. And on a side note, I'm going to start. One thing I would like to say is there are a lot more service dog organizations popping up, and make sure that if this is going to be the route you're going to take, do the homework. You've worked so hard. Veterans have worked so hard to get from point A to point B. Don't let this fall to the wayside either. Just because someone claims to be a veteran service dog organization, do your homework. Go in there, visit with them, talk to them, ask them ADA questions, quiz them, make sure they know the law, and also do your own research before you make that leap. And again, once you do find that dog, it's more of them choosing you than you choosing that dog. It's got to be a bond. So that was my experience, and it was a beautiful experience. I'm very fortunate that I was able to experience that.
Just from your experience, Spaniard, and it sounds like it was wonderful. Do you think that's how it should always be, that someone should let the dog choose the person and not the person choose the dog?
You know what? I've kind of leaned away from, what's the word? Absolutes. It's again, circumstances will dictate tactics. If you're in an area, where you can't have, let the dog do it, but, I don't know. I would use a little bit of both, kind of use your own instinct and use the dog instinct, and hopefully it makes a connection.
Right. I completely understand that. I mean, I've had dogs that I absolutely loved, and then all of a sudden they hated me for no reason. But yeah. So Joaquin, same question to you. How did you get your service dog? I know you've had, Skeeter for quite a while. How did you come about him? How did you, get into Mr. Skeeter and all of that?
Well, since this is video, I bred him. We were breeding Alaskan Malamutes. My wife at the time decided that one of the puppies from our first litter was going to be my service dog. And like I said in the previous show, I didn't know anything about it. I started reading, started researching, started realizing, hey, this could be kind of cool. This could help me a lot, which was cool and everything. And I wasn't there when Skeeter was born. Unfortunately, he and his litter mates were all at least 16 ounces when they were born. They were too big for their mommy, and they had to be delivered by C-section. So he was born at the hospital, at the veterinary hospital. And about 3 hours later, my wife brought home this litter of puppies, and she started handing me puppies. And this is not normal. This is not the usual, but she handed me Skeeter, and I knew beyond a shadow of doubt that was my dog. And I never looked back. And in a lot of ways, I picked him, but in a lot of ways he picked me. He just kind of curled up right in my hand. He literally fit in the palm of my hand, and I was his person within 3 hours of his being born. We've had our ups and downs. We've trained and trained and trained. He is an Alaskan Malamute. He grew up with a pack of Malamutes, so he has a lot of breed traits. And I've done a lot of work with him to refocus those breed traits into useful activities and tasks to assist with my PTSD. I took advantage of those breed traits. At the time, I was blowing up. My anger and rage were really there. And I needed a dog that was stubborn enough to stand up to me. And Skeeter absolutely fits that bill. He was, when I was at my worst, he was at his very best. And he is very emphatic at standing up to me when I'm starting to lose control and saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this, and to guide me in a different direction, push me away from whatever it is that's getting me spun up, get me out of the situation by telling me he needs to go potty. So things like that. He will find a way to get my attention and get me out of there. But I bred him, and that's not normal. That's not the usual. And pretty damn miraculous that it worked out. And he's a great service dog. He's fantastic. But I don't recommend it at all. It's not the best way, if there is a best way. That's just the way it worked for me.
Right. I gotta say, you've met Daisy, my dog, and mine is a half and half between you and Spaniard, and then the fact that she turned into my quote unquote service dog. I mean, I don't take her out into public because I never got the time to train her in that way. But, we went and picked up a couple of dogs back in 2010. She'll be 9, at the beginning of, 2019. But she was the only one that when all the dogs, puppies scattered up under this car, she was wanting me. I don't know what it was, but I loved the color of her. She was beautiful. And she was, one of the few that wasn't whining. She wasn't, I don't want to say scared or not nervous, but you know, she wasn't the normal puppy nervousness. And then, like I said, Joaquin, you've met her and she has probably saved my life more times than not in the past 8 years. You can ask my mom. I mean, she knows when I'm sick. She knows when something's wrong. And just her doing that is, it's one of those feelings you can't explain it unless you've lived it. Nick, same with you. How did you get your service dog?
Well, Grace is kind of somewhat like JJ, just a lot more messy. During my time in the service, me and my wife, we spent a lot of time rescuing animals. This is actually where I started learning how to train. We took in a bull mastiff. She was definitely a PTSD case. She was a neglected, abused dog. And I had just PCS, so we didn't know the vets in the area and get her spayed. Well, it just so happened I got word on a pit bull that was a bait dog. So, me being me, I drove down there and I got myself a really mean pit bull. He was supposed to be neutered the day before everything happened. Just so happened my kids accidentally got the two mixed up. We had a litter of 12 dogs. They were an abandoned litter. Grace was number 12. It was about 36 hours worth of labor. Mommy was too poop puff. She got Grace's head out. That's about all she could do. So, I actually had one of the most embarrassing stories of my life where I had to call a vet and try and get them to come out to my house, which they would not come out. And they had to give me instructions on how to remove this little puppy. That's where Grace gets her name. Her name is Grace. So I got her from, 2 rescue dogs. Just so happened to get mixed into each other at the wrong time. Originally Grace was just gonna be my pup, but, she slept with me from day one. She comforted me when my wife's mother died. She came back home. So we were, separated for a while I was getting ready to get out. And, me and her went everywhere together. And as time came, she just evolved. Even without the training, she's evolved into doing tasks and starting to work for me. And once I started seeing what she could do, I started training her to do other things, and it just worked out.
Wow, that is a story if I've ever heard one. DevilDog, how about yourself?
Well, I got my first service dog, Shala. I've had her since 2009. And how I got her was I was a young patrol cop, me and my partner driving around in a squad car. We got a call of an abandoned dog chained to a gate by Yankee Stadium. It was snowing, head sticking up in the snow. So my partner was like, what the hell is that? I'm like, I don't know. That got to be the dog. I reached in, and out comes Shala. She was about 6 months old. So I said, you know what? She's amazing. She's skinny. She's cute. So I took her to the animal control, and I told them, listen, I want her. If no one claims her, if she doesn't have a chip, I will love to have her. So a week later, they called me and said, listen, she's free. She's clear to go. She doesn't have an owner, no chip. If you want to come and adopt her. So I went right over, adopted her, and we got this bond. And like Spaniard, I went to the VA and having all these counseling sessions. I mean, it was useless. With Shala, it was a bond. And from then on, I trained her to be my service dog, and she was wonderful. Up until this summer, she passed of cancer. So when she passed, I got a call from a viewer from Black Sheep Bravo and said, listen, I heard your dog Shala passed. Come on down. I have a bunch of German Shepherd Husky puppies. I want to donate that dog to you. So I told my wife, immediately she says, let's get in the car. We drove 4.5 hours to Pennsylvania. And there was, when I met this Amish community, the guy said, "Hey, so you're the DevilDog?" I said, "Yeah, I'm DevilDog." He said, "Listen, pick whatever dog you want." And I saw the first cutest little puppy, and I picked her up, named her Layla, and she's with me today. She's 6 months. So my first service dog I got because I found her in the street, and she was phenomenal, and it was difficult losing her. I went through a tough time. So Shala just brought me life again. Layla's brought me life. She's only 6 months, but she's doing well. So that's how I got my original service dog. I found her in the street. And who would have known? God sent me to her.
Wow. So we've got, you guys telling us how you got your service dogs and things like that. Nick, you personally, I know a lot of civilians as well as veterans say they want a service dog. Is there a difference in needing and wanting a service dog? And with that, do you get that in your area where you train service dogs?
We've seen a lot. Service dogs are starting to become a little bit of a niche, or not really a niche, but starting to become kind of a trend. People want to have a service dog, but it doesn't only mean it's the right choice for them. Having a service dog, you have to reorder like all of your planning, everything you're doing. You have to I carry more equipment for my dog than I do for myself. All I have to remember is my wallet and my keys, and I'm good. But for her, I got to worry about her pad protectors. I got to worry about glasses. I have to worry about water, food. Like I carry a backpack just for my dog. Then also you got to look on a training aspect is your service dog needs to be trained on a daily basis. Whether it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, you've got to take that time out of your schedule. Your schedule cannot allocate the time for you to work with your dog. How do you expect your dog to learn and to be able to function on purpose? So there's a lot of people, they want to have the dog, but they don't necessarily want the responsibility of the dog and to be able to perform what they need to do to have the most functional service dog they can.
Right. When we talk about, needing and wanting a service dog, how do you know you need one? That's a question that someone's probably going to ask.
Needing a service dog. Well, that's up to the person. It depends on what your particular disabilities are. If you're one of the people that have like PTSD and you can't go out in public and you're having anxiety attacks, or maybe you would benefit from like deep pressure therapy, or maybe if you have a problem when you're going out to the store and you can't get in the door, it might be a good thing, that dog to sit there and nudge you on the leg, break your focus. That's all reasons that you need a service dog. Not that you want. If you want a service dog, it's generally you just want an overpowered ESA.
Right. Okay, Spaniard, I think you've got to leave soon. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the people that's listening to the after show that you might not have got to have said, in the main show or with your time with us tonight?
No, I just wanted to say first thank you for Joaquin for inviting me. What was your Bronx name again? I already forgot. DevilDog already.
That's Jaquan, man.
Jaquan, yeah. I'd like to thank Jaquan for bringing me on. And the rest.
Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, it was great. And really, my final thought really is just, like I think I said it in the last, the live show, was it just takes patience. I know that's patience and veterans don't go hand in hand, but sometimes you just gotta again, they're puppies, they're animals. Sometimes you're going to have good days and bad days, but for the most of the time, it's good days. And just remember it, if it's a puppy, it's a puppy. Okay. And, just be patient. The payoff is wonderful. That's pretty much it.
Most definitely. Well, Spaniard, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope to have you back on one of our other shows on DB Radio. It was fun talking to you, especially in the pre-show. We had our little fun, but
sorry about that.
Hey, it's my show is Service Dog show is more PG rated, so there are other shows on DB Radio that have a lot more leniency.
Yeah.
That's where the Skinamax comes in, Spain.
That's right. Okay, now I know.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
All right.
So, Joaquin, is there anything else, or DevilDog or Nick, is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about here in the after show that we didn't get to, like I said, in the main show, or any last words or anything like that to those that's listening?
Well, like the Spaniard just mentioned, it's all about training. You don't just, boom, it's a service dog, especially if you're starting with a puppy. It takes time. Training can take years. If you're doing it right, training never ends. I started training Skeeter when he was, old enough to be weaned. I started teaching him little things, but every day we did something new. And I built that training and built that training and built that training till we got to the point where we were formally training, where I was exposing him to new environments, taking him into stores, things, teaching him how to ignore food in the display cases at the grocery store, how to ignore other dogs. It's a continuous process. And even now, he turns 8 in January. Even just the last trip we made to Walmart, I worked on just some focus drills with him. Just training never ends. And there's 3 ways to get a service dog. Okay, you can train your service dog yourself, and it looks like we're all owner trainers here. That is perfectly legal. You can train your own service dog. You can do what I call cooperative training, which is what Nick does, where the handlers come to class with a trainer, they train, and essentially what happens is they're learning how to train their service dog. If the trainer does his job right, he works himself out of a job, because when it comes time and they need their next service dog, they've already gone through it and they know what they need to do. They can still go to a trainer for help, but I call that cooperative training. That's the second way to get a service dog. The third way to get a service dog is to go to one of these nonprofit organizations that offer fully trained service dogs. Of the 3, especially in regards to PTSD, I feel most strongly that owner training is the best way to go. You're there with that dog 24/7. That dog learns you, and you learn that dog. You learn how your dog responds to your PTSD, and then you can train those responses. You can shape those natural responses into tasks to alert you, hey, your PTSD is getting out of control. You're getting angry. You're getting, anxiety is attacking you. You're panicking, and the dog starts to alert you, and you train the dog how to help you avoid or to remove you from those situations. The second best way to do it is cooperatively. If you just don't have enough knowledge to train a dog, join the kind of program that Nick's working with, where you go to class, you go to class with the trainer, and they teach you how to train your dog. And then, you go to class on Tuesday. Well, you're responsible from Wednesday through Monday for continuing those lessons, practicing what you learned on Tuesday. And you build and you build and you build, and it takes time. A 6-month-old puppy is not a service dog. It's a 6-month-old puppy. You've got to take your time. It is, how is
your audio cut out again there, Joaquin. Still out.
Pay that bill, man.
Is it back?
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Got to put more quarters in it.
One thing I try to get through to people. How do you eat an elephant?
With some Frank's original red hot sauce.
Start at
One bite at a time. Service dog training works the same way. Training a service dog works the same way. One bite at a time, one step at a time. And you build on each step until you get to the point where you know that you can rely on the dog for access, that you can take the dog in public. But you know what? It's still in training, because the dog grows and changes. You grow and change as you work with the dog. Your needs change. So every opportunity, every time you go out, every time you take your dog out in public is a training opportunity. Every single time.
Most definitely. DevilDog, Nick, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
I just want to let our veterans know that don't be afraid to get help. PTSD is not a weakness, and I just want to emphasize that it's not a weakness, okay? Whether you served in combat or whether you have any type of traumatic, anything traumatic that's happened in your life, whether you're in the military or not in the military, just understand it's not a weakness. Having a service dog helps you cope with that issue. And my service dog is my therapy. She's my therapy, and she helps me cope. And because of her, I can do things that I normally didn't want to do, like go into a department store where my anxiety kicked in with people all around me. So I encourage all our veterans to seek help. Don't be ashamed. Like I said, it's something that you can live with. So I appreciate this type of show that brings light to PTSD. So take care, and that's all I have. God bless.
Thank you, brother. And Nick, yourself?
Just from a training aspect, just remember, man, slow beats fast. Love beats hate. Have patience. Realize that your dog needs to be a dog. Don't try and work them to the ground. Let them have their dog times. Take them out, play fetch, have fun. You know, let them enjoy being a dog a little bit, because you don't want to burn your dog out too quick. And like Joaquin said, owner training, in my opinion, is the best method. The cookie cutter dogs don't really work. Cooperative is a lot like training a dog on your own, because all we're going to do is show you the technique and you need to be able to execute. But other than that, man, that's it.
No, I really like what you said, you know, train slow and steady, but we all were in the military and we know that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, and you'll eventually get there no matter what. I appreciate each and every one of you taking time of your evening to discuss the issues that we talked about in the main show and this here in the after show. Hopefully you listeners got something from this. This was the Roundtable Discussions after show with the Service Dog Show. We had Joaquin Watai, DevilDog, Nick, and Spaniard, and myself, Boner Wood from Barrett Stock and DV Radio. Thank you all, and hopefully we'll see you back here very soon.